says here,
Who is doing this?
the onslaught from Sunni fighters continues.
So there's different softwares that are available for picture editing, sound editing, video editing. Like Photoshop lets you change someone's face to another's face. Video, you can add an explosion in some street using visual effects. So, but for the computer screens, you can't do anything much about them. You just record them, and that's all you can do. There's no software that lets you modify the recordings, to change them, to play around them, change the name of the user to another user, change the picture or the face of the picture to something else. So we started working on this technology in-house that would help us develop this format more and help us edit our movies and produce them much quicker. Right? Instead of spending 2 years editing a movie, we can spend 3 months editing it, because we don't need to build all those templates, we don't need to build all those pages, all those applications. We just record an original application, and then we have the ability to change all the elements on that specific program, right? And the way it works is, there's two sides of the program that we've developed. There's a Screenlife recorder, and there's something we call layers. The Screenlife recorder basically lets you record any web application or website, and then you can just edit anything you want within that website and change the logo, change the text, and that way you have already created your own version of that site in order to use it in our movies.
The first one was done in Avid, which was challenging because at that time Avid could do 24 tracks of video and 24 tracks of audio, and we used all 48 tracks at all times, which made it next to impossible. Every time you'd make a cut, you'd have to adjust all 48 tracks, and it's kind of like running a marathon with concrete bricks tied to your legs. For the second movie, I decided to move to Final Cut 10 because it's so much friendlier with graphics, and you can take a high resolution PNG image and you can blow it up in Final Cut and it'll maintain that full resolution. Whereas Avid, when it brings in an image, it'll be at the raster size of your project. It'll be at 1080p, and if you blow up the image, it'll start to get pixelated. So I have a lot more freedom working in Final Cut Pro 10. The other thing about Final Cut is that we were able to program our own custom templates. So a big innovation with Unfriended Dark Web is that we were able to, using Apple Motion, create our own software for like text messages, for example. So those are all, every text message in Facebook in Unfriended Dark Web is an elaborate software that we designed. It's a template that we designed in Apple Motion, and it's actually resolution independent and infinitely changeable, and is not actually a screen grab. It's not a screen capture, but something that we programmed for editing. So, we had lots of cool tools available to us in Final Cut 10, just because it's a newer software based on a new code base and able to do these higher resolutions and able to deal with graphics a lot better.
Well, the glitch just typed.
Our project, the profile we're making in Final Cut 10, because a lot of the story we were developing in post-production right inside the timeline, inside the editing bay, and we had to come up with a workflow where I could directly change stuff right inside the timeline without spending a lot of time. So we had this team of genius people like Mike Kovsky and Alex Brisker, who came up with a way for me to have all like windows, all assets that are in the timeline are separate plugins right inside Final Cut. So if I say director wants me to change the course of this conversation, I would just step into this separate storyline, being a conversation of the main character with her boyfriend discussing some personal stuff. And let's say he doesn't like this line, "What are you doing, babe?" Let's say he wants him to say, like, "What are you doing, Amy?" So I would just open this thing right inside my timeline, and I would change the babe to Amy, just like this. And I can do this with a bunch of stuff in the timeline, like everything, all the calls, who's calling, all the texts, all the web page names, all the pictures, everything, all the history in the conversation. I can manage every bit of it right inside, like right from the timeline, with the director or the creative producer behind my back. So this saved us a lot of time and just gave us enormous possibilities in terms of shaping the story in the editing bay.
It was a blessing and a curse that the story could be constantly written and rewritten in post. On the one hand, it's great because we could solve almost any narrative problem. On the other hand, the process could go on forever because we were constantly rethinking things, and we could be creative about the storytelling at any point in the process. So, a blessing and a curse. It was so open-ended the way that we could work on this that we had limitless possibilities.